I want to start with something small, a page from a catalogue, not a rare document, a commercial seed catalogue, American, printed in 1903, of the sort that would have arrived through the post at farmhouses across the country and been read at the kitchen table in February while there was nothing else to do. Open it to sweet corn. There are 307 varieties listed, named ones, each with a description, days to maturity, kernel color, which soils it favored, which region it had been selected in. Now open the equivalent inventory of the United States National Seed Storage Laboratory in 1983, 80 years later, and count how many of those 307 are still there. 12. That comparison, repeated across dozens of crops, produced a number that has been quoted for 40 years. 93% of the vegetable varieties commercially available in the United States in 1903 were gone by 1983. I have spent a long time with that number. I'm going to tell you why it is probably wrong and why I think it matters anyway. A seed is a copy of an instruction. Here is what a seed variety actually is, because I do not think most people, including me, really understood this before looking into it. A named variety is not a brand. It is the endpoint of a selection process, sometimes decades long, sometimes centuries, in which somebody grew a crop, watched which plants did best in that specific soil, in that specific rainfall, against that specific local pest population, and saved seed from those. And then did it again the next year and the year after. The result is a set of genetic instructions tuned to a place. A bean variety selected over 60 years on a particular hillside in Kentucky contains, encoded in it, information about that hillside, its drainage, its season length, the diseases that live there. That information was not written down anywhere. It exists only in the seed. Which means when the last of a variety stops being grown, the information is not archived somewhere. It is gone. The observation of 60 years of somebody's attention ends. The 1983 comparison came out of work by the Rural Advancement Foundation International, and it was popularized through the writing of Carrie Fowler and Pat Mooney. The method was straightforward. Take the varieties listed in American commercial seed catalogs around 1903, check which of them were held in the National Seed Storage Laboratory collection in 1983, and calculate the difference. The results were stark across every crop they examined. Cabbage, 544 varieties in 1903, 28 in 1983. Lettuce, 497 down to 36. Tomato, over 400 down to 79. Pea, radish, squash, cucumber, the same shape of loss, over and over. Aggregate it and you get roughly 93%. That figure went into books, into documentaries, into United Nations reports, into essentially every discussion of agricultural biodiversity for the following 4 decades. Now, the counter-argument. And this is the strongest counter-argument I have encountered in any of these stories, so I want to give it properly rather than gesture at it. The 93% figure has serious methodological problems, and researchers have pointed them out repeatedly. First, seed catalogue names in 1903 were not standardized. The same variety was routinely sold by different companies under different names, sometimes a dozen names for one genetic line, because renaming a bean and calling it your own was ordinary commercial practice. A raw name count therefore massively overstates how many genuinely distinct varieties existed. Some estimates suggest a substantial fraction of the 1903 names were duplicates. Second, the comparison is between a commercial catalogue listing and one specific institutional collection. A variety absent from the National Seed Storage Laboratory in 1983 was not necessarily extinct. It might have been held in a university collection, a regional gene bank, a seed saver network, or a family's kitchen drawer. The study measured presence in one archive, not survival in the world. Third, some loss is not loss in the sense the number implies. Varieties were superseded because better ones were bred. Disease resistance improved, yields improved, and farmers stopped growing an inferior line for entirely rational reasons. Calling that extinction flattens an ordinary and often beneficial process into a tragedy. I take all of that seriously. I think the 93% figure is, as a precise measurement, not defensible, and I would not want to be the person quoting it as though it were. But here is what the critique does not do. It does not restore the varieties. Every objection above adjusts the number. None of them argues that the direction was wrong. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations has estimated, using entirely separate methods, that around 75% of global crop genetic diversity was lost over the 20th century. That figure has its own methodological critics. What no one disputes is the shape of it, an enormous contraction worldwide in a single century in the genetic base of the food supply. Today, a very small number of varieties dominate global production of each major crop. The commercial banana trade is effectively one clone. Around 40% of the world's calories come from 3 species: wheat, rice, and maize, grown in a narrow band of genetic variation. The argument over whether it was 93% or 75% or 60% is an argument about the size of a thing that everybody agrees happened. The word I keep finding in the record is obsolete. Varieties were withdrawn from catalogues as obsolete, dropped from collections as obsolete, deaccessioned, there is another one, as obsolete. Obsolete is a word from manufacturing. It describes a product that has been superseded by a better version of the same product, where the older one no longer has a function. A discontinued model. But a seed variety is not a model of anything. It is a set of adaptations to conditions. And conditions change. A variety that was obsolete in 1955 because it yielded less than the new hybrid might have carried resistance to a pathogen that had not arrived yet, or tolerance for a drought pattern that had not started yet. Obsolete assumes the future resembles the present. That is the one assumption plant breeding cannot afford. We know this because it has already happened. The southern corn leaf blight epidemic of 1970 destroyed roughly 15% of the American maize crop in a single season, and it spread as fast as it did precisely because the overwhelming majority of American maize shared one particular genetic trait. The resistance that ended it was found in older germplasm, material somebody had kept that nobody had needed. The response to all of this eventually was to build a vault. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault opened in 2008, cut into a mountain on a Norwegian island 600 miles from the North Pole. It holds backup duplicates of seed collections from gene banks worldwide, well over 1 million samples. It is designed to remain frozen without power for centuries through essentially any scenario. It has already been used. The international collection held in Aleppo was withdrawn and duplicated out of Svalbard after the facility became inaccessible during the Syrian civil war. The system worked exactly as designed. And I find Svalbard genuinely comforting and genuinely unsettling at the same time for the same reason. We built it because we finally understood what a seed is. We built it in 2008. The contraction it exists to guard against had been running for 100 years by then. The vault protects what made it to 2008. It cannot recover anything that did not. I want to end somewhere other than blame, because I have looked for the villain in this one, and there isn't a satisfying one. There is no board meeting where the varieties were cancelled, seed companies consolidated, and that concentrated the catalogue. Intellectual property regimes made proprietary lines more attractive to breed than open ones. Farmers chose higher yields, which any farmer would. Distribution favored uniformity because supermarkets favor uniformity. Every one of those decisions was rational for the person making it. The aggregate outcome was that most of what had been selected over centuries by people paying close attention to particular places stopped being planted and therefore stopped existing. And what stays with me is not the number. It is the specificity of what the number is made of. 307 kinds of sweet corn is not 307 products. It is 307 separate accumulations of somebody's attention, somebody in a particular valley who noticed, over years, which plants came through the frost and kept those. That person is not recorded anywhere. Their name is not on anything. The only trace they left in the world was a seed, and the seed was not planted, and now there is no trace at all. A seed is a copy of an instruction. When the last copy is not planted, the instruction is not archived. It is simply no longer known. We do not have a list of what we lost. By definition, we cannot. That is what makes this different from every other kind of loss I have looked at. There is no inventory of the missing because the inventory was the thing that went missing. If the things that disappeared without anyone recording what they were are the kind of history you want more of, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.